Hey there, welcome. It is great to see everybody. My name is Jerry Herships. I'm the pastor here at Aspen Community Church in Aspen, Colorado. During the pandemic, we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing an online thing, and it only takes about 15, 20 minutes, give or take a couple minutes. And we read some Bible. I talk about some Bible. We have some silence. We have some prayer. And then I release you on your day to go put more love in it. So that's the plan. I hope you stick around with us. Let's have some God talk. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm not big on, I don't know how you say it, churchy stuff. I'm not real good with the ritual and tradition, all that kind of thing. I am very big on the Jesus-y stuff. I'm big on the compassion, the grace, the loving those on the margins, working towards justice. Big fan of all that. And part of compassion and grace is recognizing when people are struggling. And when I say people, I mean both other people and myself. And I got to say, I always struggle this time of year. Now, not sit in the corner in the dark, eat a whole package of raw cookie dough type struggle, but struggle sometimes with what the seasons become. For me, I don't like the idea of forced happiness or mandated joy that oftentimes this season sort of brings about. I prefer those emotions to be organic. And I kind of addressed this on Facebook this week when I said the best gift we can give each other this holiday season is the gift of grace. And I mentioned that my mom and dad and brother and best friend all died within a month of Christmas Day. My dad, one who always had a flair for the dramatic, died on Christmas Eve. And I usually post a picture of each of them on the anniversary of their passing. Now, I don't do this to mourn them as much as I do it sort of just to be a marker, a way of keeping them alive in my heart. Now, many of our Jewish brothers and sisters have the belief that when someone dies, they actually die twice. They die the moment they take their last breath, and then again, the last time someone says their name. So for me, posting about Ed and Peggy and Jean and Tim is about keeping them around just a little bit longer. Now that's how I do it. But I want to be clear, everybody does it different. And I say all this as a reminder that although we can look forward to the Prince of Peace coming on December 25th, for a lot of folks watching this, he ain't here yet. And peace can be an elusive thing anytime, no matter what time of year we're talking about, but especially this time of year. And you add to that this particular year, when we'll probably see fewer family and friends, and as a result, probably be a little more isolated, and there's a chance that loneliness may play a bigger role than usual. You put all that together, and well, there's a possibility we may have a very challenging Christmas season this year. And while speaking to those losses that I've experienced may seem self-indulgent, and I'm sure to some degree they are, I think the days of the pastor and the preacher being some sort of Superman or Superwoman are over. Thank God. I think a pastor needs to offer hope. There's no question about that. And I think by sharing their own challenges, their own struggles, their own things that they're dealing with, it gives permission to others to voice their issues and challenges and struggles as well. I'm also partly convinced of this when the post that I mentioned earlier got over 250 likes in just a couple days. Peace of mind and heart are hard. We saw Paul's letter last week that he wrote to the Philippians, and I'm trying to remember how he put it. I think he said, the peace of God will guard your hearts and minds. And I do think that's true. And this is where the Bible gets hard. It might not feel like that all the time. Now, does this mean the Bible isn't true? No. What it means is that the Bible isn't meant to be read literally. We don't read an owner's manual like we would a book of poetry. And we don't read a book of poetry as a how-to guide to fix our carburetor. As Marcus Borg points out, the Bible is true, and some of it actually happened. And really, the idea of reading the Bible literally is a relatively new thing. Early Christians didn't read it literally. In fact, early Christians didn't read it. The canon, which was the end product of the Bible, that's what we call it, it wasn't even completed until the 5th century. And until the printing press, most folks couldn't get their hands on it. If they could, they didn't know how to read. The idea of inerrancy, or that the Bible is, quote, without error or fault in its teachings, has only been around for about a century and a half. Reading the Bible literally is a practice that's only been around for about 150 years. Heck, we've only been able to read our Bible for 450 years. Thank you, printing press and Gutenberg Bible. And yet, studies show that still about 3 in 10 people still read the Bible literally. Now, I say all this because it matters in how we address hope and peace and love. The messages of the Bible are true even if they aren't factually accurate all the time. Now, you take our passage today. It comes from the Old Testament, comes from the book of Isaiah. That's the book that Jesus quoted the most from. The passage is familiar this time of year because we hear it a lot. It's from the 9th chapter, 6th verse. It says these words: "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." Now, I grew up with people telling me that that was a foreshadowing of the birth of Jesus. Maybe you did too. And maybe that's how you still understand it. That's true for a lot of people. But modern scholarship tells us that it's more likely about the birth of Hezekiah. And all those titles given to him, that was common practice that was ripped off from Egypt. In fact, scholars believe that one of the titles may have gotten lost because the Egyptian practice was usually give a person 5 titles. Now, for the sake of argument, let's just say that's true. Let's say it was about Hezekiah. What does that mean? Now what? Does that mean we throw the baby out with the bathwater? Considering the baby in this case is the baby Jesus, I think not. Do we cancel Christmas? Nope. If we read the Bible literally, I can see why some people would want to do that. But I don't read the Bible literally. In fact, 7 out of 10 people don't read the Bible literally. For me, Jesus really was and is the Prince of Peace. And peace is a central theme in the Bible. It appears over 400 times in our good book. I think that might make it a takeaway concept. I think it might be one that they want us to hold on to, this idea of peace. Jesus himself used the greeting 3 times after his crucifixion when he came back and met with the disciples. First words out of his mouth: "Peace be with you." And now I'm sure part of the reason for saying that was he recognized how freaked out they would have been after just burying him. But I also think it was more than that. I think he truly wanted them to know peace, peace in their heart. And peace was a central teaching to Jesus's plan early on, for at least the first couple centuries. Now, after Christianity became the religion of the house, so to speak, or rather the official religion of the Roman Empire in 313, things got a little iffy around the subject of peace. See, it's hard to follow the teachings of peace when you're conquering other empires and killing pagans. But the challenge of having peace isn't just a challenge of the past. We still struggle with it. We struggle with peace both personally and as a society. I think one of the ways we can go about finding peace is often to do the last thing we really want to do. And that is slow down and take a look at our life. I know. Take time to examine our lives. Okay, if not our life, then maybe at least our day. I've spoken about James Martin before. He's a Jesuit priest who wrote The Jesuit's Guide to Almost Everything. It's a great book. And in it, he talks about a practice that the Jesuits do every night before they hit the hay. It's the half pre-assembled prayer, half impromptu prayer that I mentioned last week. It's called the Examen. It usually takes maybe, 10, 15 minutes. I've done it, and it does. It slows down your day. And usually at some point in doing it, it makes me smile, and it reminds me to do better tomorrow. So here's the deal. It's 5 steps. You only spend a minute or less, sometimes at most 3 minutes on each step. The first step is what Martin calls placing yourself in God's presence. You remind yourself that God is with you when you pray. And step 2, you remember anything from the day that you're grateful for. Could be big things, new car, promotion. Could be small things, heard from a friend, fantastic meal, good scotch. You got that great parking spot you wanted. Martin even says that you're not just really to just remember it and then move on. But he says you're supposed to sit for a second and savor the memory. He said you savor it like a fine wine. Now, step 3, you actually go through your day and you try to find the spots where you felt God was there, where you felt that God was active in your day. And was there any place that you see now looking back that maybe, you turned away from God? You need to be conscious of those too. I'll give you an example of the first one. I placed a special order this week for a particular gin that I needed for a recipe that I saw online. The store called me and they said, hey, it came in, ready to be picked up. I said, great. So I went there, go to get the bottle. They go in back to pick it up. And while I'm waiting for them to come out of the back, I hear the cashier behind me say to a customer, somebody who just walked in, I can take you over here, Chuck. And I turned and I saw Chuck, who's one of our unhoused friends, who's struggling with the bottle for years. Now, on his way out, I called out to him, and he seemed genuinely glad to see me. He asked how the church was going, because he would often come on Sundays when we were open. He asked about how online services were doing. And he also asked if I had any gloves. And I told him we did, and to swing by the church, and Dory would have him there waiting for him. We said our goodbyes, and that was that. Didn't shame him, just loved him and gave him what he needed. Now, if I ran that errand first before my other ones, I would have missed Chuck. If the cashier didn't say his name out loud, I probably wouldn't have turned around, and I also probably would have missed Chuck. If I had placed the order at another shop, I would have missed Chuck. If they couldn't find the bottle in back, or the order took an extra day, I would have missed Chuck. Could all that have been a coincidence? Absolutely. Or maybe, just maybe, God was present. And yes, feel free to create your own joke about a minister and a homeless guy walk into a liquor store. Anyway, back to the examine. So I think we did 1, 2, 3. Now we're on step 4. Step 4, you notice your shortcomings. Those places in the day where maybe, you were less than great. And you acknowledge your limitations. Now, you don't beat yourself up over this. You simply acknowledge them. And you ask God for forgiveness and that you plan to do better. In part 5, simply asking for the grace to see God in the next day. Personally, I dig it like a ditch. It covers a lot of ground, helps me to savor the good, acknowledge the bad, recognize God's presence in the day, vow to do better. There are worse ways for me to spend my time. And I usually sleep pretty good after that. And it almost always brings me to a place of more peace than when I started the prayer. See, Jesus really is the Prince of Peace, regardless of what the Isaiah passage was literally referring to. When Jesus said, peace be with you, it wasn't just for the disciples. We might not have been in the room where it happened, but make no mistake, Jesus' message of peace is for us as well. Give the examine prayer a shot. I think you're going to find something good will come from it if you just give it a try. And above all, give yourself and others some grace this Christmas season. Everyone's at a different place on the path, and it's a big path. Give them some space. Or maybe, just maybe, walk alongside them for a bit. Peace be with you. Amen. Now, an excellent way to practice selflessness is to pray for other people in our world, beyond our own needs. We've talked about it a lot here. Prayer changes us, and one of the ways it changes us is it brings us peace. It helps when we turn our focus to other people. Remember, there's no guarantee that your prayers are going to change outside actions, but prayer will always change you. And so we pray for the best possible outcome for these people. Healing prayers for Gail from Minnesota. Healing for Heather in Denver. Healing for Catherine from Virginia. Prayers for everybody recovering from COVID-19 and from any and all injuries or illnesses. Prayers as always for our healthcare workers and those essential workers that are showing up every day to make our lives easier. They have been doing this now for 9 months. Keep them in your prayers. Prayers for our leaders during this time of transition and chaos and crisis. May all of them be able to put politics aside and lead with love. And prayers for everybody that's lost their job, that's struggling to pay rent, put food on the table. May they get what they need soon. Now, God also hears the prayers that are on our hearts. Know that God hears our unspoken prayers as well, the prayers that never make it to our lips. God knows them already. But we are thankful that we have been given a prayer by Jesus, who taught us how to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We are back at my Advent candles this week. I'm very excited. I was able to move them from down in Denver. Now they are up in Aspen. So we're going to take some time to pray over them, about 2 minutes. Think about the prayers that we just talked about. Think about what I said. Think about our passage. Or maybe just be. And hey, if you need this time to go get a cup of coffee or use the bathroom, knock yourself out, you can do that as well. Let me light the second candle here at Advent, and let us take about 2 minutes to go to God in prayer. Well, that's it. That's all I got this week. I hope you take some time this week to say that prayer, to take a look at your life, to take a look at your day. Enjoy the things that have come to pass and pray that you'll get better every single day. Now go out there and put some more joy and love into it. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.